Hey friends, welcome back to another Super Thanks Sunday. At least I hope it's Sunday. Copyright claims might make this one late, but hey, if you're seeing this on Sunday, March 3rd, then consider it a miracle. Either way, this is the segment where I give direct thanks to all of you lovely folks who donated directly to me using the Super Thanks feature here on YouTube. As always, no pressure to donate, as you all just watching this video in the first place is plenty of support, but if you have a message that you'd like to share with the rest of the class, feel free to donate directly to me using the Super Thanks button below this video. First up, we have Kyra Super Saiyan 93, who donated $2 and said, "Dear Dusk, I just started working again after 5 months. I came across your SpongeBob series around the time my old job ended. After getting laid off, it was just me and my dog and cat, with only YouTube and other streaming services to keep me busy so I could save money. You got me through a dark time in my life. Thank you, and I wish you and your family the best." Wow, Kyra, thank you so much for your kind words. I'm really happy that my videos were able to get you through that time in your life. Honestly, I can definitely relate. I ended up laid off due to COVID back in 2020, and that was such a dark time for me. It was really uncertain, to say the least. After almost a decade of working to provide for my family, that kind of stress out of nowhere completely messed me up for a while. I'm so happy to hear that you were able to start a new career again, and I hope more than anything that things are going fantastic for you, my friend. Thank you so much for your donation and for being a part of my community here on YouTube. Next, we have Dragon Kingry, who donated $2 and said, "Hey Sean, thanks so much for your amazing videos, and what happened to the stairs? You took them out." That's a funny Ed, Edd n Eddy reference, and it's disturbing. Also, rain on the YouTube algorithm is so ironic since it's raining right now here in Florida. I would love to see you talk about Ed, Edd n Eddy. It's one of my favorite series, and I would love to see you review each of the Eds, especially Double D, my favorite of the Eds, and of course the dark side of each character, because each of the Eds suffers from abuse in some way. Ed constantly bullied by his sister, and his parents favor her over him. Double D is neglected by his parents through sticky notes, and of course Eddie's bad influence and abuse from his older brother. Once again, thank you so much for these amazing videos, and I can't wait to see what comes next and if you review Ed, Edd n Eddy. Once again, thanks from the very amazing fan and lover of nostalgic series, Dragon Kingry. Man, thank you so much for your support, my friend. Personally, I love Ed, Edd n Eddy so much. I've made, I think, a few videos about that show, but I'm always careful about it because the copyright holder for pretty much all Cartoon Network shows just really sucks very hard. Sometimes they're really understanding of fair use law, but other times they just straight up don't care and will put your channel in jeopardy. All in all, I am hoping to make more Ed, Edd n Eddy videos in the near future, but for now, I'm taking a break from Cartoon Network just to keep myself safe and my channel healthy. It's a shame because Cartoon Network shows are some of my favorites, but for now, it's best for me to just kinda step back from them for a little while. Regardless though, thank you so much for your support and for your donation. I really appreciate you. Next up, we have Miscellaneous, who donated $5 and said, "I like working while you're talking in the background." Thanks, friend. It's mind-blowing to realize how many people work while listening to my voice in the background. It makes my little old heart happy that I can keep you guys company while you're doing your thing. Thanks again for your support, and I really appreciate you being a part of my community. Next up, we have CarmelCat96, who's coming back with yet another donation, this time for $5, and they said, "While playing Pal World, you're always on in the background. I love getting lost in the longer 1 to 3 hour videos while I hunt for pals and make my bases. Keep going strong." Thank you so much for your continued support, my friend. I really cannot thank you enough for it. I've heard a lot of cool things about Pal World, and I'm pretty hyped to try it sometime soon. I'm so glad that you love all the super long videos. People watching those all the way through literally helps me so much. On top of that, the long videos are where my true passions lie. I'm really hoping that if all goes according to plan, my next video on Friday is going to be a super long one. But with that being said, it might be the only video next week because I'm pouring a lot into this one. We'll see how it goes though. Thanks again, Caramel Cat, I really appreciate you. Next up we have Tenebrow Soul, who donated $2 and said, "Sorry it's not much, but it's a token to show my appreciation. Your videos are always wonderfully done. Much love and luck." My friend, thank you so much. That $2 helps me astronomically. It may not seem like much to some, but to me, that means the absolute world to me. It warms my heart so much to know that you enjoyed my videos enough to want to show a token of your appreciation. Your support is so important to me, and I really want you to know that I genuinely appreciate you donating to me and my family. Up next, we have Brandy Marie, who donated $5 and said, "So I'm only a few minutes in, and I'm only audio-only gang when I'm driving to work and when I'm at work and sometimes when I drive home from work. I'm just a secretary with a basic desk job, but these long-form videos help pass the time on a mundane workday. I'm so glad that I can provide some background noise for your drive and while you're working. I've worked quite a few desk jobs, and honestly, they are my personal favorite. They can definitely get mundane, but with the right entertainment and surroundings, it can be a very chill kind of job depending on where you're working specifically. Thank you so much for your support and for your donation, my friend." Up next, we have Ration13, who donated $5 and said, "I'm usually writing or gaming when I listen to your videos. I really love listening to your Dark Side of videos. They got me watching Hey Arnold again. Honestly, I love that so much. The amount of creative people and gamers who enjoy my content really just brings me so much joy. I love just letting the creativity flow, and the fact that I get to connect on that with so many of you all really just makes me so happy. I'm glad that you enjoy the Dark Side videos, and I can't wait for you to see the next one. Thank you so much for your support." Next up, we have Saki35721, who donated $10 and said, "Came here when you dropped your first Dark Side of Hey Arnold, stayed here for everything else. I often have your videos playing while I'm kicking it with my 2 kids, usually playing Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing. The content is always great and well researched, and your voice is soothing for my poor customer service mind. Also, since you enjoy delving into the dark, complicated, or complex side of Hey Arnold and all the characters, it would do me the best of honors if you chose to check out my Hey Arnold fanfic, 6th Grade Beginnings. You can find it where most fanfics live, and it is very long, and only about half finished. So, you know, if you ever have time, I know you're busy, but reading is a great thing to do to wind down from a busy day. Looking forward to everything you have planned, and please never apologize for your upload schedule being off or things getting in the way. We're adults with lives, many of us anyway, so we understand. Like my fans say to me, take care of yourself first, and we'll be here when you put the next one out." Thank you so much for your reassurance, my friend. Honestly, I stress so much about my upload schedule, and it means so much to hear that you guys are all here regardless of the day of the week that a video drops. Also, I just have to say, Animal Crossing is one of my all-time favorites. I will never forget playing the original on the GameCube and just being so mesmerized, as I had never really played a chill game like that before. As far as 6th Grade Beginnings goes, I've never read fanfic, but I've been looking for a good read recently, so I'll be sure to check it out. It's really cool to me to think that my videos got the attention of another creative mind in the Hey Arnold community. I can't wait to dive into your writing, and of course, thank you so much for being here. Next up is Tetra Zelda, who donated $2 to say thanks. And of course, thank you so much for your donation, my friend. I really can't thank you enough for your support and for being a part of my YouTube journey. Moving on, we have VJones44, who donated $5 and said, "New fan here, love your Hey Arnold series, and I'm so happy to hear that you've moved on from your previous career. If you're down for suggestions, I would love to see you cover Pepper Ann. That was my favorite show growing up, and keep up the great content." Thank you so much for being here, my friend. I'm so happy that you enjoy my Hey Arnold videos, and I'm really glad to have you here in my community. I'm always down for suggestions, and Pepper Ann is an absolute classic. I haven't watched that show in ages, and still to this day, the theme song gets stuck in my head all the time. It's such a great show. I'll definitely add it to my list of video ideas, and all I ask in return is to pretty please be patient with me. Thanks again for your support, V Jones. I really appreciate it. Next up, we have Frankie K, who's back again with another donation, this time for $2. They said, "Sorry life's happening so hard to you. I hope everything turns out okay. But here's a question. Do you have any slides of your little PNG dude that you rarely use or haven't had reason to use yet? Frankie, I really appreciate your support. Life is weird and all we can do is keep on keeping on and play the hand that we're dealt. All things considered, I'm lucky to have the hand that I've been dealt. Sure, life gets hard sometimes, but at the end of the day, I'm so incredibly lucky to have the support of fans like you. I cannot thank you enough." As far as your question goes, I have a few Giraffe Sean sprites that I've used very rarely. The first two that come to mind are the angry face, because it's kind of rare that I get mad, and the suspicious face, because it's honestly kind of hard for me to pinpoint the kind of emotion that it's trying to convey. It's kind of like my version of the "you like Krabby Patties, don't you Squidward" face from SpongeBob. On the screen here, I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of all the Giraffe Sean poses and emotions that I already have. I'm planning on ordering more of them soon, but I'm still figuring out what poses that I want to do. On that note though, shout out to Daniel, aka Igugo on Fiverr. They're the artist who does all of my Giraffe Sean art, and I cannot recommend them enough. They do fantastic work, are super friendly, and are very transparent through the whole process. 10 out of 10 recommend for literally all of your character drawing needs. Up next, we have Mari, who donated 2,000 Argentinian pesos and said, "I love your videos. I use them as background noise to draw, and I really love your reviews and content. I hope your channel grows." Thank you so much, my friend. I'm really glad that you love my content. I can't thank you enough for your well wishes, and I'm glad that I get to be your drawing background noise. Cheers to the future. As of recording this video, I'm at 127,000 subscribers, and I'm low-key hoping to hit 150,000 before the end of the year, so fingers crossed for some growth. More than anything though, thank you so much for your support and for your donation. I really appreciate it. Last but definitely not least, we have Ra Sunai, who donated $5 and said, "Audio only gang here. Don't think I can compete with embalming, but what I do is pretty unusual. I prepare soil and water samples for analysis of various metals, elements, and contaminant with different processes of acid and heat under a fine hood, of course, because the acids give off toxic fumes when mixed and or heated up." That is so interesting, and honestly, I think that's totally awesome. Odds are this is worlds apart from what you're doing, but I've been taking a big interest in gardening recently, as my wife and I are working on building up a homestead. I've been doing a lot of research into different water and soil pH levels, as well as ppm measurements and how that affects the growth of different plants. Your experiments though sound incredibly scientific, and as the guy who had the second lowest F in pre-AP chemistry in high school, my hat's off to you, my friend. Science is so interesting to me, but the formulas, equations, and variables were just a little bit too much for me to comprehend mentally. However, thank you so much for your donation. I really appreciate your support, and I wish you the best in all of your experiments. With that being said, guys, I'm going to cut the Super Thanks Sunday here in an effort to not drag it out super long, and also because I'm kind of sick right now. Thankfully, the rest of the video I recorded before I was sick, but this part, just for clarity, I'm sorry if I don't sound all too good. Honestly, guys, I still have a ton of super thanks to get through, so if you're waiting on a shout out, all I ask is just for a little bit of patience. More than anything, thanks so much for letting me do this, you guys. To all of you who listen to Super Thanks Sunday, I want you to know that doing this makes me so happy. Getting to connect directly with you guys is something that genuinely brings a huge smile to my face. I'm so happy with the state of my community here on YouTube. Every time that I scroll through my comments, there's just so much love and support from you all, and it brings me a ton of joy. There are a lot of people on YouTube who let their growing channel get to their head, but at the end of the day, you guys, we are all just normal people. I'm literally just a normal guy raising his kids, trying to provide for his family, and pouring my heart and soul into my creative outlet. No matter how big this channel ever gets, it'll always be important to me that I connect with you guys individually. Getting to respond to comments and being active and interacting with you all is something that I find a lot of value in on a personal level. I really pride myself on having an open dialogue with my community every week, and it's something that I honestly really look forward to continuing as the years keep on passing. Again, thank you so much to every last one of you who take the time to watch my videos. Every view, every like, and every comment helps me tremendously, and I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being so supportive through thick or thin. Again, thank you all so much for being a part of my YouTube journey. The Wild Thornberrys is a show that I will admit I feel like I haven't given enough love to. Since starting this channel, I've talked about this show a few times, but mainly just when referencing Rugrats Go Wild, the crossover movie that would see the Thornberrys and the Rugrats going on a wild adventure together, featuring, of course, Bruce Willis as Spike the dog. Outside of that though, I've never really touched on this show, and I don't even really know why. I absolutely loved the Wild Thornberrys as a kid. This show was just the perfect mix of serious and funny with just a slight side of educational bits here and there. All in all, it was a great show. However, my favorite part of this show, without a doubt, was certainly Nigel Thornberry. Nigel is just so unique. His mannerisms, the way he speaks, and of course his awesome mustache. As a character, he's pretty much like a walking meme in this day and age. However, behind all of that is a fantastic father figure. Sure, he may have a rather dangerous job that puts his family in perilous situations every now and then, but on the whole, Nigel is a father that does his best and puts his kids first and foremost. I've spent a few videos now highlighting specific fathers in Nicktoons, starting with Raymundo from Rocket Power, then Hugh Neutron from Jimmy Neutron, and continuing from there, it feels appropriate for my first video about the Wild Thornberrys to be one that highlights the important fatherly values brought to the table by Nigel Thornberry. Looking back at previous dads that we've talked about, they all bring a wide variety of values into the conversation. Raymundo is that fun-loving, chill, single dad who isn't afraid to be strict when he needs to. Hugh, on the other hand, doesn't wear the pants too often as it pertains to parenting. He's more likely to have his wife Judy rain down the banhammer. However, what he lacks in discipline, he makes up for in teaching valuable life lessons and preaching positivity and thankfulness. Nigel, on the other hand, takes a different approach to parenting. His family life is admittedly leagues different from both Ray and Hugh. Ray is the co-owner of a burger shack, he loves surfing with his kids, and they all live in a nice quiet home. Hugh works in an auto parts factory, he loves ducks, and he lives in a nice quiet home with his family that sometimes gets crazy due to Jimmy's inventions. Meanwhile, Nigel is the host of a nature show which oftentimes leads to dangerous situations, and his family live a nomadic lifestyle, traveling with the Comvy serving as their base camp. As a result, it's pretty common that Nigel has to full-blown risk his life to save his family from whatever situation they end up stuck in. With that being said though, he's known for putting safety first, always. He isn't necessarily overbearing by any means, and he really adores quality time with his kids. But he never fails to keep in mind the fact that really at any moment, something crazy could happen, and more often than not, they are likely hours away from their nearest hospital. Thankfully, he has a very unique set of skills that come in handy when things hit the fan out in the wild. All of that, combined with his ability to think on his feet when under pressure, really make for great traits of a father in my opinion. And that's why today, on our nostalgic walk down memory lane, we're going to check out an episode of The Wild Thornberrys that really showcases how great of a father that Nigel is. We're looking at the Season 1 episode, Nigel Knows Best. This episode starts out in the area surrounding Cuzco, Peru, a city that's near the border between Peru and Bolivia, known for being the capital of the Inca Empire. We see the family preparing to make their passage through the Andes mountain range as they venture towards Cuzco. Eliza sits down with Darwin as she admires some locals kitting up their llamas to continue their way throughout the Andes.
Wouldn't it be great to go like that to Cuzco?
Why would you want to spend hours on the back of a wannabe giraffe when you could ride in a nice, comfortable trailer?
I want to see the Andes up close. Aren't you bored of riding in the Comvy?
Nope. First a quick nap, then lunch, followed by a longer nap, then...
I wonder if we can borrow a llama.
Eliza runs on over to see about acquiring a llama. Meanwhile, her mother is in the middle of rigging together the convy with stockings instead of a fan belt. As she wraps things up, Nigel walks up with a huge box, saying that he's returned from the post office.
So you got the stamps?
No, I forgot them completely. But look at this smashing parcel. It's from your mother.
How nice. Well, no sense in opening it now. We've got a long drive to Cusco.
Aren't you just itching with childlike curiosity?
No.
Inside the convy, Debbie helps herself to the package sent by her grandmother. Inside, she finds a ton of soap and a bag of cheese crunchies, which Debbie happily sits back and starts snacking on. Marianne catches sight of her eating the junk food and is none too pleased, angered by her mother sending cheese crunchies yet again. Debbie starts to read the letter that was sent with it, in which Marianne's mother talks about how sad it is that Debbie has to waste her childhood living in a camper. Marianne snatches the letter away from Debbie so that she can read the rest of it.
Sorry can't give your family everything they deserve because of your little career, so I've taken the liberty to send some goodies to your poor dear children. How thoughtful.
Mom!
Marianne storms outside and finds Eliza with a llama that a farmer let her borrow so that she can ride it to Cusco. Marianne thinks that Eliza riding a llama through the Andes by herself isn't a very safe idea. However, Nigel is completely intrigued by traversing the Andes the same way that the Incas once did hundreds of years prior. This leads to Eliza pitching the idea that her and her father could make the trek together while Mom, Debbie, Darwin, and Donnie take the convy.
Isn't it dangerous?
Oh, yes, terribly.
Dad,
You guys, I don't think this is a good idea.
but we'll be careful. Won't we, Dad?
Oh, but of course, exceptionally careful. You have my promise, Poppet. Our trip will be the picture of safe, prudent travel, not an iota of adventure. We shall scale the mighty Andes with the utmost care.
Marianne reluctantly agrees, and just like that, the two of them pack for their trek on the back of llamas. As Nigel approaches to begin their journey, Eliza decides to start at a brisk run. However, Nigel is very quick to put a stop to her rush, telling her that they need to keep it to a walk, because he promised her mother that they would be extra safe. The llama that Eliza is riding asks what's going on, and she explains to her that Dad is the one in charge and that they have to walk because he said so. She ends up asking the llama about what cool things that they might see along the way, and the llama explains that all the humans start getting really excited near this big hole in the ground along the way.
I'll bet it's the Urubamba.
Euro what? Kid, you might as well be speaking alpaca to me.
They continue on their nice slow venture up the mountain until they approach the big hole that the llama told her about. The llama wants to take her to get a closer look, but Eliza says that they can't. However, the llama points out how her dad just rounded the corner and he won't notice if they get just a little closer. Eliza agrees, and the llama makes an epic jump down onto a rock below.
Check it out.
Whoa!
Yeah, that's what everybody says.
Wow! Oh, Pete, it worked! Your father's a regular cowboy, eh, Eliza? Good thing I got you. Looks like your llama was wandering off. Shall we play at cowboys, Eliza? What do you say, partner?
Nigel pulls Eliza and the llama as far away from the cliffside as they can get, which bums Eliza out because she only got to see the ravine of the Urubamba River for like a few seconds.
So I guess we gotta stay by the wall, no?
Not if I can help it.
Later on, we see Marianne and Debbie on their drive to Cusco. Debbie is telling her mom all about the stuff that their grandmother sent, which Marianne is just still so furious about.
Oh, and a book. It's called Women Who Juggle Too Much. Whoa, Mom, were you in the circus?
It's a book about how good mothers don't work, or drive, or breathe.
Just then, a bus appears behind the convy, honking and trying to pass on this really sketchy mountain road. As it passes, the bus is almost taken out by a semi-truck that's going the opposite direction. As a result, one of the suitcases that was on top of the bus falls off. After taking a breath, Marianne gets out to find that the suitcase is full of soap.
They threw a suitcase of soap at me. They don't think I can keep my family clean? Oh, well, I'll show them.
You're not gonna make me watch Donnie, are you?
They continue on, and we cut right back over to Nigel, Eliza, and the llama. They're making their way down the walking path as Eliza spies the ancient Incan citadel of Machu Picchu just to her right. She begs her dad to go check it out with her, but he shoots her down.
But according to my map, there's no real trail between here and there. And while I love a good scramble as much as the next man, I think it's best we stay on the main road.
Oh, but Dad!
Not to worry, Eliza. If you want to see a ruin, I know one that's closer, and it's much more ancient than Machu Picchu. Follow me.
Meanwhile, we see the convoy racing down the thin mountain roads as Marianne road rages behind the wheel, talking to herself about how her mother is so awful for doubting her parenting ability. As she continues to lead-foot it, she eventually catches up to the bus that she thinks spitefully threw a suitcase at her. She approaches in hot pursuit while her family is fearing for their lives in the background.
Put that in your soap dish!
Oh, what is with you, Mom? Hey, they blew a tire!
Bunch of reckless, irresponsible, good for nothing.
Mom?
Oh, they'll think twice before they throw soap at me again. Oh. And now what did you want to tell me?
Nothing.
Back on another part of the mountains, we see Eliza and her dad approaching the ruins that he hyped up, calling it an ancient city. However, Eliza is a bit let down to find out that the ruins are actually just 3 decent-sized indentations in the ground. Nigel speculates that they could have been home to an ancient temple thousands of years ago. However, Eliza seems fairly certain that they're just ancient garbage pits.
I know how you feel. It is overwhelming, isn't it? But I'm afraid we have to press on. Bit of rough going ahead.
Rough going?
Oh, yes. We'll be scaling Mount Veronica, a 15,000-foot peak that will test the limits of human endurance.
Nigel and Eliza are both stoked to get to climb the treacherous mountain. They continue onward on foot as the llama follows them. Nigel decides that since they're getting to a dangerously high altitude, he needs to teach her the British climbing technique that was perfected on the first attempt at climbing Mount Everest.
Now, observe. The trick is to step, then breathe. Step. Step.
Can't I just breathe the regular way?
Oh, goodness, no. Our bodies are starved for life-giving oxygen. One wrong move and we'll fall prey to the dizzying effects of altitude sickness.
Nigel also says that he doesn't want them to get separated, so he decides to tie a rope around her so that he can hold the other end, which makes Eliza feel like he's treating her like a dog. They continue onward, and Eliza decides that she's had it with being treated like she's in imminent danger. She decides to slip out of the rope and tie it to her llama.
I'm going to climb to the top on my own.
You're running away. Take me with you.
No, Santusa, you have to stay here.
But I'm fast and I'm quiet and I've got 2 more legs than you and I won't be any trouble, I promise.
It's not that. You have to keep the rope tight or my father will know I'm gone. Can you do that for me?
I'll try, but if he keeps up that howling, I can't promise you anything.
Nigel and the llama continue as Eliza decides to climb the mountain on her own. Meanwhile, the rest of the family is sitting down and setting up for lunch.
Oh, now that I've shown that bus what a capable driver I am, it's time for this good mother to serve the family I love a delicious, nutritious lunch.
Whoa, a tablecloth?
Egg salad and sprouts on toasted whole grain bread.
Huh, I thought you couldn't boil eggs at this altitude.
A good mother can always boil eggs. Oh, I forgot to cut Donnie's sandwich. Donnie, give me the sandwich!
After that, Marianne starts to get a little pushy and overbearing as she starts pretty much begging Debbie to open up and share something personal with her. Just then, the bus drives by yet again, and things get an awful lot worse when Marianne realizes that it's a bus full of nuns.
Nuns think I'm a bad mother? Where's Donnie? Okay, let's roll.
As that's happening, we cut over to Eliza, who's in the middle of climbing the mountain. The terrain is getting increasingly difficult, and to top it off, snow is starting to accumulate at that high of elevation. Eliza reaches the top, completely out of breath, and she starts to spin around in the snow.
Whoa! I guess I went too fast. Hey, where'd my feet go? Whoa, who said that? Darwin!
Don't forget to step, then breathe.
Darwin? Bye.
Eliza takes a deep breath, then begins to pass out up on one of the cold peaks of this mountain. We then cut over to Nigel, who's struggling in the snowstorm, trying to tell Eliza that they need to get safe and set up camp. Unfortunately, Nigel is taken by surprise when he approaches the llama to find that Eliza is nowhere to be found. Not too long after that, we see Eliza wake up to some locals who have her warming up fireside in an igloo.
Where am I? You don't speak English.
Oh, you're awake. Good show.
Dad, what happened?
Oh, just a spot of bad weather, that's all. Rest now. I must see if this weather has caused the weasels to shift to their winter white. Wouldn't that be smashing?
Eliza thanks them for saving her as she falls right back asleep. Back at the Comvy, we see Marianne driving through the night. Debbie asks her what's up with her, and she tells Debbie that those nuns have no right to tell her how to raise her family. Debbie points out that the nuns literally didn't even say a word to her, they just lost their suitcase.
That just happened to be full of soap.
Wait a minute. 9 bars of soap, washcloths, and food for your kids?
Oh, what are you talking about?
That's the stuff that Grandma sent. It's like she's telling you how to take care of us, and it makes you nuts.
Debbie, don't be silly.
Look, Mom. Grandma's soap.
Ah! Get that away from me!
You see, every time Grandma sends us a package, you turn into some, freaky super mom.
Marianne confides in Debbie, saying that she's right, but Debbie tells her that she just needs to learn how to do what she does, just tune out everything that her mother says. Marianne admits that she's just worried that maybe her mom is right and that the traveling is hindering her ability to be a good parent.
Mom, you are a good mom.
Really?
Yeah. Besides, I've got to chill you out or you're going to drive us off a cliff.
After that, we cut back to Nigel and Eliza as they're making their descent down the mountain. Nigel is carrying her, and they end up coming to a point where Eliza asks to be put down so that she can walk on her own now. He sets her down and tells her to relax for a bit so that he can search for a bird that he just heard the call of. Eliza starts to vent to her llama a little bit about how overbearing she thinks her dad is still being. The llama says that she's lucky to be alive, considering that she nearly froze to death the last time that she wandered off on her own.
I know, if it weren't for those Incas.
The Incas didn't save you.
The llama explains how it was actually Nigel who saved Eliza. He found her in the snow and wrapped her up in his coat to keep her warm. He then made an igloo with just a shovel and his bare hands, and even started a fire to keep them alive.
The Incas saw the smoke. They were lost too.
Dad, I'm sorry I wandered off.
Well, I probably would have done the same thing when I was your age.
We then cut back over to the rest of the family playing cards as they wait for Eliza and Nigel in Cusco. Just then, the two of them approach, happily singing a song, and Marianne runs up saying how worried she was.
Was everything all right?
Safe as the Bank of England the whole way. I know you think of Eliza and me as a couple of reckless adventurers, but we were just as careful as we could be, weren't we, Poppet? And how was your trip?
I made egg salad.
At this altitude? Astonishing.
As her parents walk off, Eliza walks over to say bye to her llama and tell her that she's going to miss her. Debbie approaches and the two of them touch base on how their trips really went. Debbie tells Eliza all about how their mom lost her mind over Grandma's present, but it ended up being okay in the long run.
How was your trip?
Oh, Dad saved my life.
Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
This is a really interesting episode to approach in the context that we're going to be keeping in mind here. There's a lot to this episode, and one thing that really rings true to me throughout the whole thing is how much this episode really represents the duality of parenting. As parents, there's a fine line for us to walk. I mean, inherently, it's our job to fend for our children, keep them safe, and overall, to look out for them. However, along with that comes the point where if you push the line too far, your kids could feel the want to break rules. I'll say this much, growing up, my parents had rules, but nothing like insanely strict or unreasonable. They had rules that made sense to me as a kid, and I never really questioned them. Meanwhile, I had a few friends whose parents were so incredibly strict that, to me, their rules felt like they were in place with no reason. Those kids were the ones always wanting to hang out at my house because they aren't going to get beaten for going outside without a jacket when it's literally 65 degrees outside. True story, by the way. One of my friend's parents literally spanked the hell out of him in front of me for him doing that. Now, with that being said though, those same exact friends that I'm talking about were always the ones who were quickest to break rules and try to hide it from their parents. The reason being because their parents were way too strict about things that were pointless to be strict about. For those kids, coming to my house and staying up past 9 p.m. and watching Napoleon Dynamite was walking on the wild side because at home, that was a huge no-no for them. This episode is a very similar example to that. In this one, Eliza is being given a privilege by her parents, allowing her to cross the Andes on llama back. The only condition in place, though, is that her dad comes with and keeps her as safe as possible. The thing is, though, Nigel did a good job of keeping her safe. Almost too good of a job, though. By all means, this isn't a jab at his parenting whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it's almost the opposite, as odd as that might sound. When I say he's doing too good of a job, of course, I'm saying that his overbearing rules pushed Eliza into running away. I mean, let's be real here, he wasn't letting her really have any fun whatsoever. Even something as small as standing close to a ledge was way too far for him. He even got to the point of having her straight up on a leash to make sure that she didn't get too far away from him. The thing is though, he wasn't doing that without reason. We all know that safety is always at the forefront of Nigel's mind, however, he isn't normally like this. Usually, he wants to have fun and go adventure and see the sights. In this episode, he was donning this overbearing persona at the request of his wife, Marianne. Typically, Nigel is the one we see plunging headfirst into danger, and Eliza usually is not too far behind. In this one though, the idea of Eliza taking this journey on a llama was a lot for Marianne to handle. As a result, she requested that Nigel basically ensure that they stay strictly on their path and not get wrapped up in any tomfoolery. With that being said, that brings us to the point of why Nigel was being the way he was. That's because he's not only a great dad, but also a great husband. His wife made him promise that he would do everything possible to keep Eliza safe, and that's exactly what he did. If him being overbearing was what it took, you bet that he was willing to do that consistently because, of anything, Nigel is a man of his word, especially when it comes to his wife. By all means, Eliza did end up getting into a really bad situation, but in all honesty, that was pretty far out of Nigel's control. She ended up slipping away when he wasn't paying close attention. Sure, maybe he could have paid closer attention, but you all saw how her mindset was in this one. She was dead set on disobeying her father and having some fun no matter what it took. Odds are, at some point, she would have ended up slipping away and getting into a dangerous situation because she was so driven to get away from him. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I bring up pushing your kids into wanting to break the rules. When you set the rules too strictly, you're effectively setting them up to want to push the envelope with you, whether you know they're doing it or you don't because they're hiding it from you. As a result of Eliza's leash being literally too tight, she wandered off and got herself nearly killed. However, if Nigel had kept her safe, but embraced having some sensible fun, this likely would not have happened at all. With that being said, that is also a fine line to walk though. Should he have said yes when Eliza wanted to venture into the unmarked path leading to Machu Picchu? Definitely not. That's not exactly safe or sensible. However, her getting a few feet closer to look at the ravine of the Urubamba River wasn't all too crazy and wouldn't have brought them away from their path at all, other than a few feet if you really want to split hairs. There were a few things where Nigel definitely was right to draw the line in an effort to keep Eliza safe. However, he ended up taking it too far at a few points, being kind of a buzzkill. As a father and husband though, I get where he was coming from. He was tasked with going above and beyond to keep her safe, and that was something that he took very seriously. I will say though, in my personal opinion, he would have benefited from loosening that leash just a little bit. All in all though, the biggest showing of Nigel's character came in the end when the llama told the story of how he not only saved his own daughter, but also some of the locals who were lost up there as well. This right here was not only a testament to Nigel as a father, but also as a world-renowned survivalist. This man was able to single-handedly build an igloo big enough to shelter multiple people, as well as start a fire to save them all from freezing to death in the middle of this intense snowstorm. Him just finding his lost daughter on the mountain and saving her alone was a massive achievement, but saving some other people as well was just the icing on the cake. Nigel, all in all, is just a great guy. He's always looking out for others at the front of his mind, and he's just such a worthwhile leader, all things considered. I have to say though, this guy is bold as hell for literally walking across a mountain range to get to Cusco. Like, this was a full-blown overnight expedition, and dude walked the entire way. I really would love to know where Nigel gets that kind of energy and tenacity at his age, because, like, share the secret fountain of youth, my guy. In the end, though, it's worth pointing out that Nigel ended up not telling Marianne about what had happened. I'm not sure how I feel about this, because it really feels contradictory to everything that I just said about him being an excellent husband. It was pretty deceptive of him to not tell her about what happened up there, but the thing is, I feel like there's a good chance that Marianne, being the way that she is, would likely gather the wrong thing from it. By all means, I could be wrong, but I can definitely see her completely blaming Nigel and cracking down the banhammer on him, when in all reality, he didn't really do anything other than save Eliza, who was gonna run away from him no matter what he did. I mean, he was only acting all overbearing and super cautious because Marianne wanted him to. By all means though, it's a complicated and muddy situation, and between the two of them, on both of their stories, they pretty much left it to what the other doesn't know won't hurt them. With that being said though, we do have to take just a sec to talk about Marianne's arc in this episode. I mean, she full-blown went twisted metal on these nuns because she was taking out her frustrations with her own mother on them. And like, the irony of her calling them reckless was just ridiculous considering that she's the one who's taking it upon herself to teach them a lesson for what she perceived that they did to her. I don't know, man, Marianne just kind of went off the deep end in this one. She's fed up with her mom questioning her ability to raise her kids. Unfortunately, Marianne's mother can't accept the fact that they don't live a normal suburban life. She thinks that her grandchildren are basically being abused because they don't get a traditional lifestyle. It's just kind of gross that she goes out of her way to mail them packages with a bunch of hygiene stuff, implying that Marianne doesn't take care of her kids. Then of course, the letters straight up dragging Marianne's parenting as well. It was all just in very bad taste. I personally can see why Marianne would get upset about this. However, she let her anger and insecurity get the best of her, and as a result, she put not only her family, but also random strangers in danger as well. All things considered, I can certainly see the parallels between Marianne and her situation with her mother and the situation with Eliza and both of her parents. Though they are different situations with different severities, they have similarities all the way through. Marianne is fed up with her mother, who just doesn't understand or even try to understand their lifestyle. As a result, she ends up acting recklessly and causing some massive trouble. Meanwhile, Eliza is fed up with her father being too much of a helicopter parent at the request of her mother. As a result, she ends up acting recklessly and nearly getting herself killed. I mean, this poor kid was full-blown hallucinating at the top of this snowy mountain as she'd straight up lost consciousness. Meanwhile, her mother nearly ran a group of nuns off the road, which was along a very sketchy mountainside. Both were frustrated with an overbearing parent, and both acted out as a result. With that being said though, this isn't a dig at Marianne whatsoever, but I feel like if Nigel was left to take the trip with Eliza at his own normal level of caution, it would have been a lot smoother. Sure, they would have ended up in some sort of hijinks or something like that, but it definitely wouldn't have been as nearly fatal as Eliza running off on her own was. I do have to say as well, in Eliza's defense, she may have been a little more rational if she didn't have that llama peer pressuring her throughout the whole episode. I don't know what that llama's issue is, but it really just wanted Eliza to run off and do some crazy stuff on her own. Like, this thing straight up had the opposite of her best interest at heart. This, kids, is the danger of peer pressure. Looking back at this show, which is something I'm definitely excited to do more in the future, for sure, I'm reminded of why I enjoyed Nigel as a character. Growing up, this show taught me a lot. I learned about geography, ancient civilizations, different kind of animals, and so much more. But on top of that, I learned a lot about what a good parent looks like. In this episode, though Nigel was overbearing, it really showcased his ability to take care of his children. The scene where the llama retells the story of what Nigel did gives me chills every time. The thing about this episode, though, is that, sure, it may not have painted Marianne in the best light, but as far as the whole series is concerned, she's genuinely a loving mother who would go to the end of the earth for all of her children. Much like Nigel, she always has safety at the front of her mind, and her unique set of skills makes her an excellent defender of her children. Between the two of them, their family has an excellent foundation which really shines through in each and every episode. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Nigel was an excellent father? Also, I am contemplating having the next part of this series being one where I drag some trash dads up next. What do you guys think? You ready to hear me drag some of these dads through the dirt? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love seeing your guys' feedback. Massive shout out with love to my patrons, especially those of you in the true 90s kids tier. I couldn't do this without your guys' support, and I really appreciate you donating your hard-earned money to me every month. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and give a little praise to the algorithm, and as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Peace.
Nuns think I'm a bad mother?